What's going on, everybody? This is Gary B. Jr., and today we're talking about practical productions from the standpoint of filming or creating on a budget. And in this video, what I did is I went to MPB and I just put in a price range for cameras that were specifically hybrid cameras. Okay, so these are mirrorless cameras, these are DSLR cameras, and they will do a mix of video and photo. So I believe any content creator, whether you're working in the ministry, whether you're doing events, whether you're doing documentary work or whatever it is, you're going to need a camera that can take photos. Some people use their phone, that's fine. But these cameras will be able to do both at any given point, right? They don't necessarily do them at the same time, but they do allow you to have that flexibility. And so this is a deep dive into the mindset I would have if I were looking for a used camera for both photo and video. You'll notice that in the conversation, there are going to be some cameras that lean more towards video, and I'll just kind of say that out loud. There's other cameras that I say are really good for photo, but not the other way around. All right. For what you need to go back and look at my other videos and think about what you need to look for, because I also show you how to look through this and see the different features of each of these cameras. And then I will always go back and look at other reviews from YouTube or anything like that you can find of people using the camera and giving you feedback on it real time. A lot of these cameras are older, I mean, as early as 2012, I believe. We got some cameras from 2017, 2018 that are in this price range. It doesn't mean they're bad cameras, but whenever you're using a camera, you just got to understand what are the compromises with it, because every camera comes with compromises. No matter how expensive it is, no matter how cheap it is, it's going to have a compromise. And the question is it a compromise that you can afford? All right. Is it a compromise that you can afford? So as you watch this video, you need to go into it understanding something that you know you need. Do you need a good photo camera? Do you need it to have a price point for lenses that is affordable? Or do you need a camera that's going to be used outside and it needs to be weatherproof and weather sealed and really durable and things like that? Those are things you need to think about. Do you need a camera that doesn't have a recording limit? That's something you need to think about as you watch this video, as we go in depth on just a search, right? This is just a MPB search of cameras, and then you hearing my feedback, my honest feedback, candidly talking about these cameras from I'm a videographer and photographer by trade, so I've used a lot of different cameras. I say a lot. I've used several different cameras um, throughout the years, probably for the last 10 years, 11 years or so. I've been using many different cameras to shoot videos and to take photos. And I have settled in on a system that works fine for me, but everybody's unique in their needs. And so you want to find a system that works good for you as well. What's going on, everybody? Gary B. Jr. here. Today, I'm going to talk to you about what I would do if I was in the market for a camera between $200 and $600. All right. And this is a broad range, but I think it's a safe range to get a good scope of different types of cameras. And I'm just going to walk you through the pros and cons that I see and some of the benefits of the cameras in terms of their use case that are very practical, real cameras that you can get right now off of MPB. This is not a sponsored video, but it's a way for you to actually get an understanding of what to look for, and what you want to use these for plays a big part in what you should be looking for. All right. So let's look at MPB site. I just typed in mpb.com, and this is the US version. And I hit the option that says shop. And when we get there, it looks like this, and it gives you an option to shop by brand. Now, brand is important, but it's not as important as um, your price range in this situation. But the brand is important because what it means is it dictates what type of lenses you need to buy. It dictates what you're going to do with the future camera process that you have. So getting a camera now is always helpful to think and look ahead to say, okay, what does this particular brand offer for me in the future if I keep these lenses? Because believe it or not, the most important part of the process is not the camera, it's actually the lens. But the camera does play an important role, just not as important as the lenses that you buy, depending on what you need. So we're going to start with just regular cameras. We've got another one here for video cameras as well. If we have time, we'll jump into that one also. All right, so we're going to shop cameras. All right, and it gives you a list of all different types of cameras. So we're going to use these filters. So we got DSLR cameras, mirrorless cameras, premium compact, medium format, rangefinder, and other cameras. Now, that's great, but now we're going to go ahead and put our price limitation on here. So we're going to go to price, and we're going to do a search for 200 to 600. We hit apply. and we've got one here. So these are priced high to low. All right. So this top row is going to be some of the best quality cameras you can find in terms of what they do. All right. So now let's talk about this. Top row, these are all $600 cameras here, right? $599. And second row the same way. We'll talk about those as well. All right. The D750, solid camera, really robust in terms of its ability to withstand outdoors and all that kind of stuff. It's also really good for photography. All right. It's a DSLR camera. You used to be able to tell based on the size of the body, but that's not so much the case. But this is a true powerhouse of a camera. It is the idea of what you would consider, like, it's got the quality of a flagship camera. Now, the reason that's important is because my recommendation with anybody when it comes to buying a used camera is don't think about just getting a certain camera. I would always think about getting a good camera a camera that came out that was really good for its time. All right. And those are usually going to be the flagship cameras, and they're going to be priced a little bit cheaper because they're used. All right. This is one of that kind of quality. It would be at the top of the list in reality. It has excellent performance in terms of photography. Videography, it does say it can shoot 4K and HD. And let's see here. It's for a new generation. It says, I would go down here and I start to look at other things that are important. All right. So when you're looking at this full spec list, Bluetooth is great. Not that important to me. One of the most important things is a microphone jack. All right. Cameras that can take pictures are great. All these cameras that we're going to look at today can take pictures, but not all of them are going to do video well. And one of the things that dictates that they can do video well is this option of a microphone jack. All right. If we go down, USB port type. This has to do with how fast it will be able to transfer files from the actual camera and or interface with the computer, right? This is a micro B 2.0, all right? So it's a USB micro, all right? And that just speaks to the age of the camera, the year it came out and all that kind of stuff. And I believe that shows up here. Yeah, so this came out in 2017, all right? And then we go down, the other things I look at, and the micro port, okay, USB micro B, that's something that's fine. It's just something you're not going to find very often, so you have to be very careful about that because you don't want to get a camera and then be looking for a USB-C cord to plug into it, and it's not going to work. Older cameras are just going to have what they have. All right. The touchscreen, it does have a touchscreen that can be helpful, but it's not necessary. There are a lot of benefits to that. And then HDMI port, it says yes. That to me means that it is a full HDMI port, which is great. And then we've got, let's see here, articulating screen. This is important as well for video because you do want to have something that can flip out. If you're doing content creation, you want to flip it out and make it face you. This can articulate and do that, is what it's showing here. And if I go back up to the top side here, megapixels is a 21 megapixel camera, which is more than enough. I would say anything over 16 megapixels is going to be more than enough. Some of the newer cameras that are great in low light are less than 16. They might be like 12 megapixels or something like that. So for our budget in this particular price range and idea, we're going to be looking at that and saying 16 or above is going to probably be the best. All right. Like I said, it's got a built-in microphone. That's not a big deal, but that's something that's pretty standard and pretty common. And then the sensor format. Now, this is important for some. It's not that important to me, but it dictates a lot when it comes to the price of the lenses you need to buy. All right. APS-C is kind of right in the middle. All right. There's full frame that is, you know, a popular option. And then there's APS-C right below that. And then there's micro four thirds right below that. The higher up you are, the more expensive the lenses are generally expected to be. So full frame lenses are going to be more expensive than micro four thirds lenses, typically, okay? Especially older ones, right? So older lenses are going to depreciate quicker, but they depreciate altogether slower than a camera does, okay? So this is a good camera to get. If you're looking to get this one, I would say it's going to be great for photography. It's going to be great for running gun shooting, right? So you can shoot for a certain amount of time and then move on. I don't know if it has a recording limit, so I would actually do a search for that. Let's see here. If I go back, keep that there. Let's go to here. And I'm just going to say, does the what's this called? D750? All right. D750, 7500, sorry, have a recording limit. All right, so yes, this one does have a recording limit. So that's something to keep in mind. I would not recommend this for long event shooting. I wouldn't recommend this for ministries and things like that, unless you're prepared to use that recording limit to your advantage and making sure you have more than one camera. All right, if you plan to record directly to the camera. Okay, and then if we go back out to our search, let's see here. We're gonna go to let's just go back to our list. All right. Next one on the list is the Panasonic GH5. This is a camera that I'm actually using to record this video right now. So I'm going to do my best to not be biased, but I'm very familiar with this camera. So if we go to the full specs, right? Built-in Bluetooth, not a big deal. Microphone jack, yes, that's a big deal. All right. Um, it's got a USB Type-C port, so it's a little bit more modernized than that D7500. Okay. Um, Lens mount micro four thirds. That means it's going to have lenses that are going to be more affordable, which is important. It does have a touch screen, and it is, in this case, it's a mirrorless camera. It's not a DSLR camera. And so mirrorless, practically speaking, it means that it can take pictures completely silent. All right. There's no noise of a mirror moving on the inside of it, flapping around. Right. So that's the main benefit for a photographer. For a videographer, um, I have to think about what some of the benefits are of a mirrorless camera over a DSLR. I do believe that one of the biggest ones is that all the DSLR cameras do have that 29-minute limit, so, or 30-minute limit. So the mirrorless cameras moved in and phased that out. Now, the funny thing is this camera came out the same year, all right? What you'll find is Panasonic cameras are gonna have different or more advanced video specs than most any other brand out there, especially as you get to the older cameras from 2016, 2017, 2018, all those cameras from Panasonic are going to far exceed the video specs compared to the other cameras that came out in the same year. All right. Now, and that's related to the specs themselves as opposed to the autofocus. This is where it's going to be a challenge because the D7500 probably has really decent autofocus for photography and maybe for video. Is back then video DSLRs weren't necessarily the best at video autofocus unless you were talking about Canon. Nikon may have, they just weren't known for their video autofocus. All right. Megapixels, it's at 20.3, right? So it's well within the 16. Um, going down. Let's see here. Micro Four Thirds, we talked about that. You might be looking at these maximum shutter speeds. All right. The maximum shutter speed is important for photography. All right. This has to do with how fast can it take a picture. This is 1/16,000th of a second is as fast as that shutter can go. And that is important if you're outside on a bright sunny day and you want to capture the image and you don't want it to look washed out, but you want to keep your aperture really low. All right. Now I've got a background as a photographer just as much as I got one as a videographer. So I'm very familiar with photography specs as well. I'm focused a bit more on the video side, but most of these cameras that we're looking at least in this list, are going to be beneficial for both video and photo. The majority of them, some may be specialized just for video, but I think everyone that we've got in this list is going to be for both. All right. And so 1/16,000th of a second is a really fast shutter. Most of them are going to go to 1/8,000th of a second. This one doubles that. All right. That means it can shoot a picture really fast. Even when it's really bright outside, it'll still be able to get it to where it's not super bright because it doesn't let in as much light, but it still allows you to keep your aperture really low. So you can have a shallow depth of field. All right. And then what else do we need to pay attention to here? This one has a maximum video frame rate of 180 frames per second, which is crazy. As a beginner, you really won't need that. Looking in this budget though, if you were looking for a camera that can shoot super slow motion, right? That's what that 180 represents, that you can slow this down quite a bit, all right, and shoot super slow motion. So back in the day when 2017, 2019, 2020 and all that stuff, a lot of YouTubers were using this camera because of that slow motion effect. They were shooting things at high frames per second to slow it down later in post. So you saw a lot of music videos, a lot of B-roll and all that kind of stuff really slowed down because they were using a camera that could do something like that. All right. So this is a great camera to get. I don't have to say that because I'm actually using it, so you know that. But the thing about this camera to keep in mind, this is not a great camera if you want to be a content creator, because this camera does not have excellent autofocus. It's autofocusing on me right now. Don't get it wrong. I use it as a content creator all the time because I'm familiar with it. I like manual focus, but I also don't mind the autofocus on this. It will just take some setting changes and things like that, which I can talk about that in another day. But the way you set up your autofocus really does matter, especially if you're going to just be sitting and doing a talking head like this. All right. So this is something that is very doable. But if you're doing a walking around and vlogging and things like that, I would not trust it personally for the autofocus. But sitting at a dedicated desk where nothing's going to change, completely fine. All right. Let's look at the next camera on our list. All right. So we got the D750. We had the 7500 and now the D750. All right. Same price range almost. This one goes all the way down to less than almost $300. So if I go here, and when you're looking at these cameras, right, you don't have to get the one that's in the best condition, because all of these cameras on MPB are really cool because they show you the exact picture of the camera that you're actually seeing the price for. So if I go down and say see more, and you don't have to do that. I would go up and I would just say sort the price low to high. All right. And that will flip it around. So now we've got the lowest price one here and it says it's well used. All right. So if I click on the image itself, it gives you a real picture of the image, right? This one's kind of deeper shadows. All the doors look like they close just fine. The thing that's missing here is this eye cup cover right there that you should be able to easily find something like that on Amazon or B&H or something like that. Maybe eBay if need be. This rubber piece right here is coming off, right? That's going to be something that you're going to see on a lot of older cameras. My GH5 right now, the rubber on that handle right there is coming off. This is the place where most of the action happens on the camera in terms of the connection with the user. It's always there. So it's getting warmed, it's getting tugged, it's getting moved around and squeezed and all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be one of the first things you're going to notice that goes on an older camera. All right. And you can see it kind of sticking up right there. And then the bottom of it looks great. It looks unused. If we click on that, it doesn't look like it's well used to me. The most giveaway is the handle and the eye cup missing. And those are pretty normal wear and tear items. All right. And so if we go back to it, let's go out of this and go down to the bottom, we can see more about this camera. All right. Now, earlier we talked about full frame having higher or more expensive lenses, APS-C being a little bit less expensive, and then micro four thirds being even less expensive. The other thing to consider about that, because this is a full frame camera, right? So it's a great camera for photography because it's full frame. I believe full frame cameras have a certain quality to them when it comes to photography that you can't really match or rival with a smaller sensor, which is really cool. But what that means is it's a lot wider in terms of the scope of the lenses, right? So if you're shooting an event, you may want something that's more zoomed in or more what they call cropped. And that's where, when we talk about full frame, we talk about the crop factor. All right. And it's all based on the full frame sensor. And so crop factor means how much is it different from a full frame sensor. So APS-C is cropped in. So that means it's taking a smaller piece of the image that a full frame shot would get. And then a micro four thirds is even further cropped in or smaller, meaning it's 2 times, it's half the size of this. And so you can take that image and put it up and it'll be half the size right in the center of that. There's going to be micro four thirds. All right. For events, that is awesome because it means you can zoom in a lot easier with a micro four thirds camera or cover more distance with the same lens because it's going to just crop in on that lens. So a 70-200 in, this particular full frame world is good. That's a great lens to get. They're usually really big, really bulky. But if you get that equivalent lens in micro four thirds, it's going to be a 35-100. All right. That's the range that they have, 35-100. All right. And so in that, it's going to be a lot smaller of a lens, right? It's going to be lighter as a lens. And if you were to get a 200 millimeter lens, it'll be the equivalent of like a 400 millimeter lens in full frame. All right. So the throw or the distance you can shoot more clearly is going to be much more pronounced in a crop sensor camera. In a full frame lens, it's still going to feel wider. Okay. So you can't zoom in as easily. This camera is got a really good reputation as well. It's a digital SLR, so DSLR. All right. But it came out in 2014. So it's even older. All right. So it's a mini 8-pin USB port type. I guess it's just a USB mini. I'm about to say I don't even know what that is, but I'm pretty sure it's just a USB mini. All right. It does have a microphone jack, which is great, but no Bluetooth, right? We start getting that old, there won't be much Bluetooth in those cameras, which, like I said, that's going to be for me with the GH5, it does have Bluetooth, and I do use that on the GH5 and the GH6 to connect my phone to the camera. So if you want those modern features, you're going to be lacking when you start getting into the older cameras. All right. So anything I would say before 2017, you're going to probably run into some issues with that interactivity. Now, the integrated cleaning is good. That's fine. That just means it's a option on the camera that you can go into the settings and make it clean the shutter pretty easy. And that just means it just kind of pops the shutter to where it kind of knocks off any dust as best that it can. Okay. And then this one, the maximum shutter speed, 1/4000th of a second. So outdoors, you might run into some issues of trying to get a shallow depth of field when it's really bright outside. So you'll see people with these kind of cameras, they'll look for shade and things like that, shadowy areas to make sure they can get or keep, I should say, that the shallow depth of field and not have to turn their aperture up to adjust for the actual light, how bright it is. Okay. And DSLRs, you're going to see the focus points. They're going to be a lot less than what you're going to find in a mirrorless camera. So this one has 51 focal points, or autofocus points. And then everything else about this camera is just fine. When it comes to video, the maximum resolution is HD, which is all you can expect from a camera like this. Would I recommend this for a video for a church or a ministry, anything like that? Not necessarily, just because it's going to have that 30-minute record limit. The GH5, however, that we just looked at, definitely would recommend that, because even though it doesn't have good autofocus, you really don't need the autofocus for ministry. If you looked at my other videos, you'll know that I talk about that, is that manual focus is going to be better because it takes away any potential for it to be jumpy or out of focus or anything like that. All right. So decent cameras, got a built-in microphone, which is pretty standard, pretty normal. But yeah, D7 750 is a great photo camera. It's good for running gun as well, I would say, if as long as you're okay with shooting in 1080, which a lot of people nowadays want to shoot in that 4K. Some cameras shoot in 6K and all that kind of stuff. Fuji Xt1, not the 100 or anything like that. All right. Xt1, if we go down, I'm going to say full specs. No Bluetooth, but it does have a microphone jack. Very important. Micro USB, micro, or micro USB, I guess you can call it. And then it came out in 2014. All right. It is a mirrorless camera. It's APS-C, which is pretty much all of Fuji cameras from a user market base, right? A general market base, they're going to be all APS-C. They do have some that are bigger than full frame. Those are called medium format cameras, and they're coming down in price right now, but I wouldn't recommend those for much use unless you're just a full-time photographer only. Let's see here. It has the microphone jack. That's great. It is a 1080 or full HD camera only. And if we do a search, let's pull it up. I'll pull it up here so you guys can see. Xt1. And this is a Fuji. Have a recording limit? Yes, it does. All right. And it records up to 14 minutes. All right. So this is something that would not work for ministry work or would not work for events. It's strictly good. It would be decent for running gun filming if you're shooting something that's, just shooting parts at a time, 1 or 2 minutes at a time or something like that, or you're making a highlight video and you're just getting little snippets, maybe a music video or something like that. You could do something like that with this camera pretty easily, as long as you're okay with that 1080p, which is just full HD. All right. Let's go back and let me go forward here, get to our list that we made. All right. And I don't see it. I see Xt1. Let me go back and put our prices in there. I lost them. So we said 200 to 600. We got a Pentax in there now. Okay. So it's just updating real time. Okay. Makes sense. We got a Pentax K3 too. I wouldn't recommend the Pentax unless you want to just do strictly photography. I'm not even going to look at that one. And notice the availability. I'm showing you these because these are the ones that you can get today. These are available right now, unless it's spares and repairs, which is what we saw here. All right. We got another Fujifilm camera, and it's a little bit older. So I would say it's going to have the same limitations we saw earlier, probably even worse. And then the Sony Alpha A6500. There's only one of those available, and it's well used, right? But if we look at the specs, this was a game-changing camera for a number of reasons. It does shoot 4K. but it has some major overheating problems. So I would not recommend this for ministry work or anything like that, but it's really good if you want to get just a good camera to get started with for using it for like run and gun shooting or anything like that. I wouldn't necessarily use it for interviews unless you know your interviews are going to be really short, all right? Because it probably runs into the same problem. This is the Sony A6500. If we do a search for it, let's see, A6500, 30-minute limit imposed by the manufacturer. This limit is common feature. That makes sense. All right. So it doesn't talk much more about it, right? But this camera was notorious for overheating. That's what I do know. All right. And let's keep going. We're going to get to some Sony. So this is the X-T1. We talked about that one. Here is the Canon 6D Mark II. All right. This is the first Canon on the list. All right. I actually knew a guy that was recording some videos with the 6D Mark I, and he really loved it. This is, I know, a full frame camera. All right. If we go to the full specs of it, it's full frame. The maximum shutter speed is 1/4000th of a second, which is comparable to the other cameras in its class in 2017, which is when it came out. You can see down there at the bottom, which makes sense. And then we've also got a microphone jack. Yay. For filmmakers, this is great. It does have a recording limit. Like I said, any camera this old is going to have a recording limit unless it's a Panasonic camera, mind you. All right. 26.2 megapixels, great for photography. Unbelievable. Any full frame camera, like I said, is going to be great for photography. So if you have a video camera in the ministry already, and you're looking for a good photo camera, this will be one that I would recommend. It's a great photo camera. Doesn't do much else. It shoots in full HD, so it does do fine for making videos and stuff like that. Doesn't have any image stabilization. When you start getting the cameras this old, unless it's a Panasonic, it's not going to probably have much, or if any, image stabilization, especially Canon. They don't have really good image stabilization at all. In the newer cameras, maybe, but those are going to be super, unless they're just brand new. I say super expensive, but unless they're just brand new, right? So they're just going to be full price. And I like to buy cameras used because they're tools. Okay, nobody's going to ask you what kind of hammer did you use to build that house. They just want to know, is the house built well? And they're going to be able to look at that for themselves. Same way with your photography, same way with your videography. They don't necessarily know or care about what you use to make it. They just want to know if it looks good. And that's what they care about. All right. So the 6D Mark II gets a thumbs up. Really good camera. The Pentax K3 is here again. Yeah, it got bounced around. And then this Canon 7D Mark II. All right. Same price, right? $599. This is $599. Why is that? Well, the 7D Mark II is a camera I'm pretty familiar with. It is a flagship camera for wildlife photography. It has got a very, very robust build quality to it. And it's decent for video in terms of autofocus and all that stuff, but it is an APS-C camera. So when you say wildlife, it has that crop with it. So that crop allows it to zoom in a little bit more than a full frame camera, which was the 6D. So this is APS-C. And so it actually will do better for wildlife because it gives you further reach, which is what wildlife photographers really want. For video, it's fine as well. It has a micro USB, it has a microphone jack, and it's an SLR camera, DSLR camera. It does have two storage types, SD and compact flash. Now, at this price range, I'm not that concerned and a stickler about the storage types. If you're looking in a budget like this, that's not going to be that big of a deal. But the Panasonic GH5 does have two SD cards. This one has an SD card and a compact flash. You will need a special card reader for that compact flash. It's a lot bigger card reader, or card, I should say. But it's decent in terms of what it does. It works fine. It's, it shoots all the, all the frames that you need and all that kind of stuff. This one shoots 10 frames per second, which is great. And it's a 20.2 megapixel camera. Really good stuff. Overall, for the year that it came out in 2014, this is an unbelievable camera in that deal. And this is the Mark II. No, this is the Mark II. You'll see it down there. So this is the Mark II version of it. Now the downside of this camera, if we go back down, articulating screen, no go. So it's all on the screen, flat in front of you. It does not tilt. It does not flip out. This is not a good camera for content creators because you won't be able to get your framing right. Okay, that's the downside of it. When you talk about the flip out screen, it's really good for framing. I can look at the screen on my camera right now is flipped around so I can see exactly what my lighting looks like and all that good stuff. So this is a good camera. If you have somebody manning this camera and you're shooting interviews or events or things like that, like that, it should be fine, but it's still gonna have that 30-minute limit, so it's not the best, okay? But it will not overheat or anything like that. It won't run into those issues. As big as this body is, as professional of a build it is, you won't run into those kind of issues, okay? Same idea. You would look at, if I go to the lowest price one, if I change this and sort by the lowest price, this one says it's well used. Okay, let's see what makes it well used. It looks like it's got some scuffs and yep, so it's got a little buildup on it. Pretty dusty on there. Okay, but it still has the eye cup, which is good. And notice this build has got some scratches, but the covers are solid. Okay, and it doesn't have that flip out screen, right? It's got buttons there, and the screen is not a touch screen either, if I remember correctly. Let me go back down to see the full specs. I'm pretty sure it is not a touch screen. And does it even give you touch screen? Yeah, no, not a touch screen. Okay. So keep that in mind. It may be something that you don't want to do, but it's good for photography. Like I said, outdoor photography. I would take this camera with me any day. It's just bigger, pretty heavy, hefty. But the lenses for it are going to be big as well, because you're going to probably be using Canon full frame lenses for that. All right. Let's go on into the next camera we got. So that's a 7D Mark II. Really good camera. Okay. We did the 6D. We were at the 7D. We got some other ones. This is a 5D Mark III. All right. We didn't talk about that one yet. So they just keep kind of rearranging on me, which is kind of weird, but it's cool. I want to make sure I didn't miss any ones. There were the A6300. This one we didn't talk about. And it is a decent camera. It's kind of like the A6500, but I think the biggest difference is this one doesn't shoot 4K. No, it shoots 4K as well. It overheats quite a bit as well. And I'm trying to think, it might be good for shooting like short running gun stuff. More than anything, it's got a micro USB. Not much, it's very small. Like I said, if you're looking for a small camera, that's good. It does have a microphone jack, so that's good as well. So it's a beginning filmmaker that's just shooting little short pieces and things like that. I think it's fine for that because it is so small. It gets you into the Sony ecosystem. I would say it's not really great for anything in particular because it's so small. So I wouldn't use it for events or interviews or anything like that, because it will likely overheat before you get there in terms of getting through any amount of time with that. But I think it'd be good for shooting like a music video or something like that, where you can stop and give it a chance to take a break and all that kind of stuff. All right. So let's go back out. That's the 6300. But we got the 5D Mark III. All right. This one from Canon. So we got the 6D Mark II. And then the 5D Mark III. The 6D Mark II is like the little brother to the 5D. All right. Canon's numbers, the smaller they get, the more robust it is. All right. So we got the 6, and then we got the 5. They got a 1, and though the 1 is the biggest flagship they've got, right? But the 5D Mark III was iconic when it came out, as well as a camera, full frame. And you can get it for under $600. If you were looking to get a photography camera, if I were going to get a photography only camera, I would probably end up getting one of these, just because I like the look that they had years ago, right? It shoots full HD, so it's not the best for video, but it does have autofocus during video. It does not have an articulating screen though, all right? So it doesn't have a flip out screen, so not good for content creation or anything like that. So keep that in mind, but it does shoot 1/8,000th of a second. Came out in 2012. This is I say super old. It's the oldest camera I think we've looked at today, 2012. But it is robust. It is, like I said, it's got an unbelievable reputation. It does have the SD and the compact flash combo. So it has 2 card slots, but they're not the exact same card. All right. So keep that in mind. It does a mini USB, which is even older than micro. And then it's 22.3 megapixels. But if you're looking to just get a good photography camera, you really can't go wrong with this one. All right. This is the 5D Mark III. No Bluetooth, but it's not needed. Does have a headphone jack or microphone jack. I'm sorry. If you want to use it to shoot some short films or something like that, it's fine. But it is in full HD only. It won't overheat on you. The only thing about these cameras, the older ones like this for video, they're going to have a really, really low bit rate. So they're going to be all like 8 bits per sec, or not 8. The bit rate is going to be like an 8-bit recording. The GH5 is the only one in this list so far that's going to be recording in 10-bit. And that is important when you try to edit the footage. It's actually going to give you more latitude to make changes to it, right? So you can adjust the color grading and things like that with a 10-bit file easier and more succinct and cleanly than you can with an 8-bit file. However, getting started, you're not thinking about color grading and editing more so than anything. You're probably just used to trying to get comfortable with using a camera, using the settings and things like that. So as a beginner, as a starting camera, this is good. It is bulky, it is heavy, but it is a good camera to get. This is the 5D Mark III. All right. If we go back, let's look at what else we have on this list. So the Canon EOS R50. Now this one is a more modern camera. It's an entry-level camera though. All right. So let's look at this. It starts out, these are like new. This one's good. This one's fine. Look at that lens cover. I believe this is a full frame camera, but I could be wrong. I know it's the RF mount. So let's see the full specs. So came out in 2023 and it has USB-C. It's mirrorless. It's a APS-C camera. I'm sorry. So it's not full frame, but it does have that RF mount. Okay. So this is the newer lenses from Canon. So this is important. If you're looking to get a Canon camera, the 5D Mark III that we just looked at, the 7D Mark II, the 6D from Canon, those are all a different mount than this one. All right. So those lenses for those older cameras can work on this new camera, but it doesn't go the other way around. This new lens won't work on those older lenses. All right. So if you want to get the older lenses with any Canon camera now, you would have to get a little adapter, and that adapter will take, it'll go on top of the camera, and then you put the lens connected to the adapter, and it'll automatically make that older lens work on a newer camera. This is one of those newer cameras. All right. And so it is an entry-level camera, but it's newer, right? So it has USB Type-C, it's got the Bluetooth, it has 4K video recording. Let's see here. Any Canon camera going all the way back to the 7D Mark II, the 5D, they're gonna have fine autofocus, right? They're gonna 2014 and above, I believe they had their autofocus. I think the 5D Mark III may have had that video autofocus that was great as well, where it'll track your face and all that kind of stuff. But the question is, does it have a articulating screen? Yes, it does. So for a content creator like what I'm doing right now, this camera should not be a problem. Like I said, it is an APS-C crop, which is fine. Let's see here. Shutter speed, 1/4000th of a second. Not the best. Like I said, the GH5 had 1/16,000th of a second, and then the 5D I think had 1/8000th of a second. So this one's even worse than a camera that's made almost longer than 10 years ago. All right. So it'll be decent, but it's an entry level camera. All right. I don't recommend cameras like this too much just because the build quality is not always that great. The specs aren't always that great, but it has modernized features like USB-C. Okay. So you're going to get an experience that's kind of a mixed bag. It's going to have a lot of limitations and it's not going to be really high quality. Okay. What I would rather have is an older camera that has limitations, but is really solid. All right. So it's a really good starter camera in terms of if you accidentally drop it or something like that, you're not going to really stress about it. This one, it is dangerous to drop is my guess because it isn't going to be a lower build quality with it being so new and so cheap. All right. So it's one of those you can take it at your own risk. This is the R50. I'm pretty sure it has a recording limit, but let's double check. With it being so cheap, I'm pretty sure it does. So let's say Canon R50. I believe that's what this is. Yeah, EOS R50 says has a maximum recording time of 1 hour per movie file. However, the camera may stop recording before that due to overheating, especially when shooting in 4K. So that's better than I expected. So it has a 1 hour record limit. Still not good for events and ministry and things like that, but it's something, if you know it, you just work with it, right? If we can work with 30-minute record limits. I'm sure you can work with an hour recording limit. The downside is, like I said, this is an entry-level camera, so it's not going to have the robustness to record for long periods of time with the surety of it not overheating, all right? So if we go back into our list here, we saw all these. This is the Canon EOS M200. I'm not a big fan of these little compact cameras. They're just not going to be able to do a lot of things. So I'm not going to focus on those too much. But the G9, Panasonic Lumix G9 is what it's called generally. They've got It looks like just one of these. All right. So the Panasonic G9, Lumix G9 is really decent camera. This one is in excellent condition. So it's fully functional, but it is missing an eye cup cover, right? So you would have to replace that, which is pretty cheap. I've had to do that actually once with one of my cameras. I just got it on Amazon, pretty inexpensive. And let's look at the specs on this one. So this is a very good photography camera, but it is a micro four thirds camera. All right. So if we say full specs, microphone jack, yes. Came out in 2017, same year as the GH5. Micro USB, not the USB-C. All right. It has built-in Bluetooth, which is fine. It's mirrorless, so it can be completely silent when it takes pictures. It does have a high frame rate, 180 frames per second, which is a big marking point for Panasonic Lumix video cameras. The maximum shutter speed, this is the highest one yet, 1/32,000th of a second. Unreal. All right. Now, the other thing about Panasonic cameras, I said this before, is that they are really good at shooting with handheld stuff because they have unbelievable image stabilization. All right. So this one has a flip out screen. We saw that on the pictures, but let me see where it is. Articulating screen, yes. Unbelievable shutter speed. And then it does shoot in 4K. Built-in microphone, that's no big deal. Does have a hot shoe. Nowadays, that's a big deal, making sure that it has a hot shoe. I would recommend a camera that does. If you want to upgrade your photography where you start using flash and things like that, a hot shoe is going to be important. And then it's a 20 megapixel camera, 20.3 megapixels. All right. Now, does it have a recording limit? Let's see. Does the Lumix G9? Let's see. Yes, it does have a 30-minute recording limit. And then for although some specific formats may have different limits. For example, there's a 10-minute record limit on the 4K shooting. All right. And then so minute limit, this is for including some 4K options. And then this is the 4K 60. I'm sorry. So shooting at a higher frame rate is going to yield it to have more of a limitation. If you need longer recordings, you can start a new clip after the limit is reached, or consider using a camera with unlimited recording like the GH5, which we talked about earlier. All right. So the camera will automatically stop recording if it gets too hot to prevent damage. The likelihood of it getting hot is pretty slim because this is a bigger size camera as well. Even though it's micro four thirds, which is basically a half the size of a full frame, it is a good size camera, right? It's renowned for having great photography features as well as the ability to hand hold it to get those pictures, right? In slow shutter speeds, you can get really good pictures still with this. All right. I remember talking to a guy that was at a lake with me. We were trying to get some sunset shots and getting the water over the lake. I mean, getting the sunset over the lake and all that kind of stuff. And he was hand holding his, and I had a Canon 70D, and his shots were so much better just because he could hand hold his really well. And I had to put mine on a tripod, and it was just really hard to get the right angle that I wanted and all that kind of stuff. And he was just taking the shots, and it was really getting on my nerves the way he was getting them, but really good camera because of that. All right. Panasonic GH5S. So this is the GH5, but it's got an S in it. I believe that S stands for sensitivity. So it's going to do better in low light generally. But look at the megapixel count, 10 megapixels. It still shoots in 4K. It does not have image stabilization built in, just for the record. This is one of the things I know about this camera. Really good camera. Came out a year after the GH5, so 2018. And it has everything the GH5 has pretty much, except that it has a smaller sensor in terms of the actual resolution, but the actual sensor is a little bit wider than the GH5, a little bit bigger, so it actually does take in more light. Decent for photography, but that small megapixel count makes it not so good for photography. 10 megapixels for a photo is not going to be really good. I would say, like I said, 16 or above is going to be decent. And this camera itself is designed strictly for video. All right. So if you're looking for a good video camera, this would be the best one to get. All right. And this one does have the dual record. It does have dual card slots. It doesn't show it here, but if we go up here and we look at the images, I don't think they're going to show you that either. I just know that because I've got the GH5, the older brother to this. This one has the eye cup. It looks identical to the GH5, except for this red record button at the top of it. So it's got a better processor on the inside. They started doing that with those newer cameras. And so it does just fine for video. Everything you want to do for video, a lot of ministries will use a camera like this because of its ability to shoot video. You still got to get a lens, but great camera if you're looking strictly for video. All right. We'll go through a few more here. The D810, the Nikon D810. This one is a pretty popular camera as well. A lot of YouTubers like this one for photography. It's got a 36 megapixel sensor, which is great. Let's see, the year this came out, 2014. All right. 1/8,000th of a second, decent. It is a micro USB, so it's not modernized, doesn't have Bluetooth or anything like that. It does have a microphone jack, and it shoots in full HD if you want it to. I wouldn't recommend this for video because it is an older camera, not known for its video, but it is definitely known for its photography quality. With it being 36 megapixels, that is a great megapixel count. And we didn't get to see what the 5D includes in terms of megapixel count, but this is a good camera to get if you're looking to take pictures. It is a robust camera. It's really good size. If we go to some that have some pictures of it, you can see how big or how massive this thing is. It looks like it has muscles when I look at it. It looks like a bulldog of a camera, right? You see that all the flaps look like they work decent. Full metal build, no flip out screen, so not good for content creation. You can't keep yourself in frame. It looks like it's missing an eye cup holder, but that might be how the eye cup holder looks. I don't know this camera too well. Yeah, so this one says it's good. I would say it's probably more well used, but that's their approach to it because it is a flagship camera. It's decent. It's not gonna give out on you. It's made like a tank, is what I would say. All right. So good camera for photography. All right. Oh, and what was at the D810, right? Let's double check just to make sure. I believe it's full frame, but let's double check. Lens mount, sensor type, CMOS. Yeah, sensor format, full frame. All right, so this is going to give you great pictures. 51 autofocus points, decent for what you need to do. All right, the D500 is going to probably be something like its little brother, and in terms of it being, I believe, a APS-C. Yes, this is the APS-C version. I say version, an APS-C Nikon camera. 2016 is when it came out. It does shoot 4K, which is great. Micro USB, does have a headphone jack. Nikon has always made solid bodies for their cameras. They just didn't get all the shine. They really had a difficulty with their marketing. And I think it was just their autofocus was a little bit behind Canon. And then Sony started with the mirrorless game, and that really took them a step back for Nikon. This one's a 20 megapixel as opposed to the other one being 36. 1/8,000th of a second is decent. Great for photos, great for wildlife. Really reliable camera from what I've heard about it and known about it. Built like a tank, just like the D810. Maybe not as solid, but it's definitely solid as a APS-C camera. Like I said, it's good. I wouldn't recommend it for video though. Does it have a flip out screen? Let's double check. We can just look at the pictures so you can see exactly what they look like, or what it looks like, I should say. Let's see. It has a flip screen, like a tilt screen. All right. So that's pretty cool. It'll tilt, it looks like it tilts down, and it may tilt up as well, but it does not articulate at all. It doesn't have a hinge on it to articulate around. So it's still not good for content creators. And I think that's just how the eye cup looks. It looks like that. This is the second one like that. So it's got some rubber around it or whatever. So it's not going to be completely naked on the eye to where you're hitting a hard piece of metal or plastic. It's a eye cup there already. All right. So solid camera, good for short shoots, right? If you're shooting something short, it should work fine. It does shoot 4K. Not recommended for video, but it does it. And then the 1DX. This is a Canon. Remember we talked about the lower the number. The same way for Nikon. Look at this. This is their version of the 1DX. This is the D4. All right. So we go to this. These are flagship of the flagships. All right. This is the best of the best for this particular season or era of Canon. So it came out in 2012, but they throw everything at these cameras. So it's got a mini USB. Does have a microphone jack. It's got an 18 megapixel shutter megapixel sensor. These were typically used for sports photography, not just wildlife, not just portraits, but for sports. So the shutter speed at this time was 14 frames per second. It could shoot 14 frames per second in 2012, right? Most of the cameras we looked at, if we looked at the shutter speed, they would probably be somewhere around 10, sometimes 8, whatever it was. This one's 14 and it's over 10 years old. All right. So if you're looking for a good sports camera for football games, basketball games, or something like that, this will be a good one. It's got full frame, but the storage is only compact flash. All right. No SD cards. Compact flash does support that faster speed, so that's what it's there for. It does not have an articulating screen. I know that much. In terms of recording limits, let's see. This is the 1DX, is that right? 1DX. Does it have a recording limit? I'm pretty sure it does, but let's see. So Canon 1DX. Yep. So 30-minute record limit. So that's pretty standard. It is a big body camera. If you notice, if you look at it close, you'll notice it looks like it's two cameras in one because the side grip is kind of built into it. Okay, I say a side grip, a bottom grip is built into where you can turn it sideways and get a vertical shot, and it's just built into it. So the back of it is almost like twice as big as a regular camera because it's got this part, but then it also rotates so you can hold it on this side as well, and it has menus and buttons for you just like you would up here on this side of it. All right. So like I said, designed for sports, really good. If you're looking for a sports camera, I would snatch that up in a heartbeat because it is a solid camera in that sense. All right. If I was looking to do sports. All right. Let's go to anything else on the list that's worth looking at. Let me check. Let's see. The M50. I wouldn't recommend that. The 850. I wouldn't recommend that. Let's see here. A lot of these older Sony cameras, I wouldn't look into them. They overheat so quickly. They may be good for photos though. Not bad for photos. OM-D, Olympus OM-D, these are good. They're micro four thirds cameras. They're really good for photography. They got good stabilization. Panasonic comparison, the biggest difference between them and Panasonic is these actually have much better autofocus than Panasonic. So if you're looking for a camera that is a micro four thirds and you want great autofocus for older ones, then you would get one of these. They're just really uniquely made to me. I'm gonna say that way. They're not designed for video. They have video features. Like I said, this shoots 4K, right? But it's not really good at it. I would say more than I don't know how to word the Olympus stuff, but they are solid cameras, especially for photography. It's got a 20.4 megapixel sensor, and it's a solid camera. So the USB port, it says Olympus CB USB 6. Don't have a clue what that is. And I don't even want to look it up. I wouldn't recommend this for much of anything, but it is a good camera. Like I said, for example, a mirrorless camera, and it shoots 60 frames per second. All right. Compared to the 1DX, which is state of the art in 2012, this came out in 2013 and it shoots 60 frames per second, but that's on a mirrorless camera with no regular shutter. All right. So this is great. As long as the subject's not moving, the picture should look fine. But outside of that, you really wouldn't want to use that fast of a frame rate. All right. So keep that in mind. I say if it's not moving, as long as, I mean, you can change the shutter speed to where to kind of freeze it pretty easily. So that's not that bad, but keep that in mind. These are great photos, great cameras for photos, not so great for videos. But it probably does have a flip out screen. Like I said, they're just people that buy them, they're like well vested into this particular ecosystem. They do use the same lenses as a Panasonic, so you can interchange Olympus lenses with Panasonic micro four thirds cameras and vice versa. So it does have a flip out screen. It's got an eye cup. They're just kind of like a vintage body. They're almost like a Subaru, where they just got their own unique following, right? Subarus, a lot of them have all wheel drive and all that kind of stuff. These are kind of like that in a sense. They're kind of in a world of their own. Okay. But they're good cameras, really good cameras. I just don't recommend them for much of anything outside of shooting maybe wildlife. Um, Anything else on the list? Let's see here. We got a lot of pages here. Let's see. We're in the $500 range still. The D4. We didn't look at the Nikon D4, but it'll be kind of like the 1DX. The T7i, this is a decent one for video because it'll have good autofocus. Anything with that eye. So they got the T6i, they got the T7i. It's just going to be limited on the actual features in terms of how you, it's just a smaller, it's an entry level video camera. Let me put it that way. Entry level video cameras to me are not worth it anymore. Okay. But it is an APS-C camera, so it's mid-range. It does have a flip out screen. So it's good for vloggers and things like that. It should have that. This is the T7i. It should have a recording limit with it as well, but let's double check. I believe all these DSLRs will have that. Yeah, so 30-minute record limit, decent for pretty much everything. It's not going to be likely that it'll overheat. The body of it is pretty decent, but it's still an entry level video camera. So good, but not great. I would say still lean towards the flagship models that are older before I would get something like this. All right. So that would be like the D6, or not the D6, the Canon 6D Mark II to me would be better than this. This is $500. I think you can get that one somewhere in that range as well. So I wouldn't lean towards that. No, that 6D would be full frame. So better for photography. And pretty much the same idea, same specs for video as that one. All right. I'm looking to see if they've got the Panasonic G95 or G85. This is the GH4. Oh, here we go. So this G95, this one I would say is great for an all-around camera. It's right there next to the GH5. It's just a little bit newer. Okay, I think it has the exact same sensor as the GH5, and it doesn't let you see the full specs of it. Interesting. So let's look here. All right. So it's got Vlog-L, which is like a log format, which is good. It's got 422 8-bit output. When you record externally through the micro HDMI, it has a small HDMI, which is not the best. Supports up to 9 frames per second for photos, but it does have a flip out screen. It is, let's see, it's a 20 megapixel sensor. Yeah, 20.3. I'm pretty sure it's the same sensor that the GH5 had. It's just in a smaller, more entry level body, but it does not have a recording limit. And we can double check that. The G95. Let's see here. G95. It does not have a recording limit. It may create separate files for the 4 gig or 30-minute mark, but it will continue recording. All right. And so this is a good camera if you're looking to do events. G95, even the G85 will be even cheaper as well. And so those will be good cameras. And we're just looking at cameras in a certain price range. And I just want to do this to kind of give you an idea of the mindset behind it. And the way I would do it is I would look at these cameras and then I would look at the specs and then I would go back and look at some reviews on YouTube of those exact cameras. All right. And I'm just looking to see if there's any that stand out. The GH4 is fine. I would probably pick the G95 over it, but this one may have some features that are even better. But it was one of the first ones that could record in 4K. It's a micro four thirds as well. Doesn't have great autofocus. The 90D. All right, now this one, let's see, does it have a recording limit? I'm pretty sure it does, but let's double check. Yep, so it's got the 30-minute record limit, but this is the kind of like the creme de la creme entry level, kind of like, it's like a G95, but it has great autofocus. The G95 doesn't have great autofocus. This one does. It's a lot bigger, has a recording limit. It's been heavily used. This one has, but it is a solid camera for pretty much anything. Photos, videos. You would need to buy an eye cup for this one. It's been used pretty well. It just looks dusty on the pictures, but all the flaps look like they close well. Looks like it only has one card, a little dusty. So it's definitely up to you if you want that. Now notice that this camera and a lot of these entry-level cameras, you know they're entry-level usually because they'll have a flip-out flash. If they got a flip-up flash on the top of the camera, it's usually going to be an entry-level camera. Professionals don't usually use that. They're going to use a attached flash. They're going to attach it themselves, or I say attach external flash that they'll attach to the hot shoe in this spot right here. All right. And so entry-level bodies have a tendency to be less weatherproofed, less robust in terms of withstanding things. But the G9, or not the the 90D has a pretty good reputation. It was one of their latest DSLR cameras that they came out with. So it's got great autofocus. If we look at the full specs, it's got still USB mini, which I hate that. It came out in 2019, but it did not have USB-C. So I don't like that, but it does have, excuse me, articulating screen, 120 frames per second as a max, full 4K shooting, APS-C, 1/16,000th of a shutter, means it can shoot really good in bright situations. It can still shoot pretty fast enough to where you can not have to mess with your aperture. 32 megapixels. So it's going to have some really good size images for your photos if you do decide to use them. It does have a microphone jack, so it's fine for shooting music videos. It's fine for shooting vlogs, things like that. It's just going to be a little bit heavier than smaller cameras, but it's not. It's about the same size, I would say, as a full frame camera in the same family, like the 6Ds and things like that. This might be the same size, if not bigger than a 6D Mark 1 and 2. Not as big probably as a 5D, but this is the 90D. All right, really good camera in terms of affordability. Still has a recording limit, so wouldn't necessarily recommend it for church recording, but if it had no recording limit, it would be right there in my book in terms of being able to use that. The 6D is right there, pretty affordable as well, but not the 6D Mark II. I would get the 6D Mark II over the 6D. All right. The EOS RP, this is a Canon camera that is their new sensor, the RF sensor, or RF, sensor with it, and mount, I should say. And so entry level, it came out in 2019. It's got a USB mini as well, which is still disappointing. Does shoot 4K. It is a full frame camera. 1/4000th of a second is just a part of that entry level game tour. It's not going to be the most robust camera. So if you're looking for a good entry level camera, this one's not bad. It does have some unique limitations. I think when it first came out for video, it had some weird limitations. Megapixel wise, it does shoot 26 megapixel shots, which is fine. So if you're looking for a good full frame entry level camera, this would be fine to get. But I would not recommend it for video shooting. I think it would probably overheat before it has any amount of time. But let's look it up. EOS RP. So it has a 30-minute record limit. It'll automatically stop and it can pick back up. This one is pretty cool because it feels really good in the hand in terms of the way it feels and the way it looks and all that stuff. I really like the body style of this one. It was one of their first mirrorless cameras that was like an entry level mirrorless camera. All right. But it's good. It's good, just not completely solid because it does have some limitations on the video recording. I think it only shoots like 30p or something like that instead of 24p, which is just weird. But it's entry level. All right. Looking to see if there's any. The 70D, this one, I started with this camera, the 5D Mark II. If I had to pick, I would pick the 70D, even though this is full frame. It's a little bit older, I believe, and this one does have autofocus. Great autofocus on the 70D. Wouldn't recommend it for events, but it is good for personal content creator camera. The T6i is similar to that. It might be a little bit newer, but it is not as robust. The 70D would still be my choice over the T6i. And I'm just looking to see if there's anything else that stands out. These Olympus cameras, the Panasonic cameras, those are fine for photography. The G7, this one's notorious for being a decent camera as well, but let's look it up. Let's look and see if it has a recording limit. The G7, Lumix G7. It has a 30-minute recording limit, but a lot of times what ministries will do is it does have clean HDMI out, I believe. And so they will run a HDMI out of this camera into their switcher or to a wireless transmitter. It's got the 16 megapixels. It's 1/16,000th of a second, so it's decent for photos as well. But it is a micro 4/3, so it's a lot smaller sensor. It does shoot 4K. A lot of churches started using this camera. It came out in 2015. And if you're looking for a good budget camera, this one will probably be on the top of the list if you can't get the G95. Right, the G95 or the G85 to me would be even better because if you do want to record directly to the camera, you can without having to buy a switcher, right, to send the signal to. But it is the G85 has no record limit and you can record directly to the camera. This one you can, but it has a 30-minute limit, so you have to start it back up and all that kind of stuff. All right, does have a flip out screen and all that kind of stuff. It's decent for what it does, and you can get it like new for $350. And you still need to buy a lens, right? So if we go down to the cheapest one, low to high. So it's not a big range, 300 to 355 or something like that. And so I would get one that's probably mid-range, excellent condition is going to be best for that. And you'll be good to go. Now this one's got a cool body style. Like I said, if you like that body style, that silver with it, a little silver accent, that's kind of unique, kind of fun. I don't know. It probably is plastic, but maybe not. But if it's not plastic, that's great. If it is plastic, I'm pretty sure it is, because this black is probably plastic too. We'll see. We're not going to see. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's all plastic. All right. And we'll wrap up the video there. I think we've gone through enough of these. As they fall off, like I said, a lot of these, like the 1D Mark II, this is an older flagship camera. Like I said, this is the probably right before the 1DX big body cameras. The D5300 is supposed to be pretty solid, but I believe it's an APS-C camera. The T6S, I've never heard of the T6S. I've heard of the T6i. I'm not sure what the S stands for. All of these are going to be more entry level. This is the 1D Mark III. This is probably the one that came out before the 1DX, actually. The T4i, there's that one. The 5D, the original. This is the original Canon 5D, which was pretty iconic. But the 5D Mark II was more iconic for video because it had full HD video recording. And then this is the original 7D, which is fine as well for photography, especially for wildlife. Built like a tank, but it doesn't do really good for video. It doesn't have autofocus, I don't think, either, in terms of like video autofocus. I'm trying to see if there's any more. I think that's the last page. So 4 pages. All right. So we went through all these different cameras that are under $600, and you got an idea of my mindset behind it. We'll do another video for some that are maybe above that price range for that, from $600 to $1,000. But if you're looking for a good camera, I would always go use MPB. Has always been good. I've gotten a lot of my cameras from there. Actually, as I think about it, even lenses as well. I've done some trade-ins with them and traded some things in as well. And they've always been responsive from the customer service standpoint. They've been fair when it comes to what I say the camera is quality-wise. They usually will match it. They'll let you know if they do find a disagreement in what you said it's worth compared to what they said it's worth. And you can kind of get an understanding of that. Their word is final. It's not like they're going to change it because you can persuade them, but they are usually fair in that sense as well. But go to MPB, check it out, see if you can find one that works for you. And then you got to start looking for lenses based on the lens mount. And we just go to that full specs and you'll see all the different things and details that you need to look at from there. All right. Have a great rest of the day. This is Gary B. Jr. with Practical Productions.